All right, here's another one now. When when I was in college, or when I was 17, from the time I was 17 years old till senior in college, I actually had 10 different cars. I mean, the lady at the registration over the dealer, registration over there, she said, really, you should have to have a commercial license or something like that, to register this many cars in this short a period of time, two and three cars a year. And but they were junkers, they were old cars. So several of the cars, the two or three of them, were only good for like one trip to Bonaventure because it was 350 miles. They only get was one trip. Anyway, but sometimes I'd get home and I had these guys I used to deal with, three or four different guys I could call to try to buy a car. These guys were always fixing up a car. They knew where somebody had a car that they were, willing to sell. They had a car sitting out in the field, out in the back of the house that they hadn't used in years. You know what I mean? And because what happened was when we were kids, they sold. They used to pay you for a junker. They bring a car in, you get $10 or $15 or something like that. And then what they used to do is take the car apart. Let people take all the parts and all that stuff. And then when they got down to the basic shell of the car, they would take a quart of gasoline, pour it all over the inside of the car, and then light the thing on fire, burn everything out of it, and then it was just a hunk of steel, and then they sell it for scrap steel. Well, they passed a law that said, from environmental, you can't burn the car out anymore. Well, then they had to take the car apart and take out all the upholstery and all that stuff because the guys doing the sheet metal stuff, they didn't want that in there. So that now they wouldn't take the car. You had to actually pay them to take the car. So it went from like getting 10 or $15 to paying 10 or $15. Anyway, so people would just park a car on the back and would sit there, the grass would be going up around it, which I'll tell you a couple stories about those cars. So anyway, but this is, so one time I come home, more than once, but this happened one time, and I couldn't get a car. I couldn't find one. Okay, so I don't have a car. So we had to take the train back. So Jim and I were on a train, and we used to call it the Weary Erie. Honest to God, I used to be able to drive up there in about 8 hours, and it took about 9 hours on the train. Oh, the train was slow. Anyway, so I hop on a train. Now there's a bunch of guys on the train from Bonaventure too. They used to take the train more routinely, and they would pick them up along the way. We get to Binghamton, New York, about halfway. Train stops. It's late at night. We're going to get in there late, okay? So it's maybe 8 o'clock. When I say late at night, it's dark. It's 8 o'clock. So we pull in. Jim says, I'm going to go buy something. They had a little store in the train station. Nothing like today, big, fancy. This is basic stuff, But he's not going to go buy something. So everybody says, as long as you're going to go buy something. Hey, how about getting me this? How about getting me that? How about getting me this? But pretty soon, and Jim's like, hey, what do I look like, And so he's indignant. I have to go do this stuff. Why don't you get your own? We're having this big argument. Well, you just go get the stuff. So anyway, he's got this list that he's finally making a list. This is a lot of stuff. So hot dogs and potato chips and a Coke and da 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 da. Anyway, makes the list up. So Duff goes do. He goes in, he waits there, online. He finally gets the stuff. He pays for it. Well, it's a lot of stuff, so they put it in a box. So he's got this cardboard box, and he's got a whole bunch of stuff in it. He comes walking out of the train station, and the train is pulling out of the station. And Duff's like, what? He's got all this stuff. He runs down to the end of the station trying to catch up to the train. And it's gone. He's standing there at the end of the station holding this box full of stuff, full of food, looking at the train leaving. Now, he's in Binghamton, New York. He has no money. And he's 175 miles from school. No money. It's in the middle of the night. It's cold. It's the winter time. So he gets pissed. Of course, he blows up. He takes some food, and he's at the end of the what do you call station? Platform. So he throws the food down. Of course, it hits the ground. Coke break, whatever the heck happens to it. So now he doesn't know what to do. He turns around. He starts walking back. As he's walking back, way down the end of the thing, he sees some cars. Railroad cars. passenger cars. They unhooked about the first 5 cars on the train, pulled them off. But we're in the back of the train. Now, they come back with an engine, comes back, hooks up, another engine comes back and hooks up to us. Now, so he gets back on the train, but he doesn't have the food. So he's back on the train. We go, hey, where's the food? Well, you're not going to believe this, guys. So he tells the story, and we didn't believe it. Trust me. What do you mean? Everybody is ragging on him. So he goes, I go get you guys stuff. I think, so he's telling the story, and we're busting his chops. And then now when we start pulling out, he goes, wait, come on, we all have to get over by the window. Sure enough, as we pass the end of the thing, there's the box. There's stuff laying all over the place. So, oh, I'll tell you, I would have loved to have seen his face when that train pulled out, though, because the train pulls out, you figure you're done. And 5 or 6 cars is pretty long, Anyway, that was a story. I mean, those guys told that story. They ragged on him for, oh, geez, he heard that story for a couple of years easy, Yeah, go get me some food, Duff. I can trust you. Yeah, forget it. You're not getting any money from me. But he never had to go buy food for anybody anyway. Anyway, that's another one. Let's see if this thing stops.